The Princess. Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a young princess named Elara who lived in a grand castle, surrounded by rolling hills and sparkling rivers. She was beloved by her people, not only for her beauty, but for her kindness and wisdom. Every morning, she would walk through the village, listening to the concerns of her subjects, offering comfort and helping solve their problems. Despite her seemingly perfect life, Elara longed for adventure beyond the castle walls. She dreamed of discovering new lands, learning about different cultures, and experiencing life in all its diversity. One day, she confided in her loyal friend, a brave knight named Cedric, about her desire to explore the world. Cedric, who had always admired Elara's spirit, offered to accompany her on this journey, and together they set off under the cover of night. Their travels took them through dense forests, across vast deserts, and over towering mountains. Along the way, they encountered mythical creatures, wise sages, and other travelers on their own quests. Through every challenge, Elara's courage and compassion shone brightly, earning her the respect of all they met. But the journey wasn't without its dangers. In the depths of a dark forest, they were confronted by an ancient sorceress who was determined to keep Elara from fulfilling her destiny. The sorceress cast a powerful spell, trapping Cedric in a tower and threatening to steal Elara's memories of home. Elara, though frightened, refused to give in. She used her wit and the knowledge she had gained during her travels to outsmart the sorceress. In a battle of wills, Elara broke the spell, freeing Cedric and defeating the sorceress. As they continued their journey, Elara realized that while the world was vast and full of wonder, her true strength came from the love she had for her kingdom and the people in it. When she finally returned home, she was greeted as a hero, not just for her adventures, but for the wisdom and courage she had gained along the way. From that day on, Elara ruled her kingdom with a deeper understanding of the world, always seeking to bring peace, joy, and justice to her people. And though she never stopped dreaming of new adventures, she knew that her greatest journey would always be the one she shared with her people. As the years passed, Princess Elara became Queen Elara, and her kingdom thrived under her just and compassionate rule. She established schools where knowledge from all the lands she had visited was taught, and her people grew in wisdom. The village that once surrounded the castle became a prosperous city, a beacon of peace and progress in the world. But Elara never forgot the thrill of adventure. Every year, she would set aside time to travel once more, this time with a caravan of scholars, explorers, and healers, sharing the knowledge and wealth of her kingdom with neighboring lands. Cedric, now her most trusted advisor and protector, would accompany her, and together they continued to inspire and aid those they met. One day, on a distant island shrouded in mist, Elara stumbled upon an ancient, forgotten temple. Inside, there was an inscription on the wall, written in a language no one could understand. It spoke of a great treasure, not of gold or jewels, but of knowledge that could change the world. The inscription hinted at a lost civilization, one that had mastered the art of peace and prosperity, but had vanished without a trace. Intrigued, Elara made it her mission to uncover the truth behind this mystery. She gathered the brightest minds in her kingdom to decipher the ancient texts and began sending expeditions to find clues to this forgotten civilization. Years of exploration followed, with Elara leading some journeys herself, venturing deeper into uncharted territories than anyone before her. During one of these expeditions, Elara and her team discovered a hidden valley, surrounded by towering cliffs. Inside, they found remnants of the lost civilization, magnificent stone structures, covered in intricate carvings, advanced irrigation systems, and traces of technologies far beyond their time. But what amazed Elara the most was the discovery of a library, filled with scrolls and books that held the secrets to healing, harmony, and the secrets of nature. As they studied these ancient texts, Elara and her scholars realized the potential they held. This lost civilization had unlocked the key to balancing humanity with nature, a lesson the modern world desperately needed. Elara knew that this discovery could transform her kingdom and the world. She returned to her people with this newfound knowledge, and over the years, the kingdom embraced the wisdom of the lost civilization. Sustainable farming practices were implemented. New technologies improved the lives of everyone, and the kingdom became a model of harmony and progress. Under Queen Elara's leadership, the kingdom flourished, not only in wealth, but in spirit. She taught her people the importance of balance, of learning from the past to build a better future. Her reign became a golden age, one that was remembered for generations. And though Queen Elara eventually grew older, she remained the adventurous, wise leader she had always been, her heart still full of curiosity and wonder for the world around her. She knew that the real treasure she had found wasn't the lost civilization's secrets, but the knowledge that true power came from understanding, kindness, and the unending pursuit of wisdom. Her story became legend, passed down through the ages as a symbol of what it meant to be a ruler, a leader, and a seeker of truth. And in the hearts of her people, Elara would forever be known as the Queen of Light, the one who had brought not only prosperity, but also a deeper meaning to life. Though Queen Elara's reign marked a golden age, the legend of her adventures did not fade with time. In fact, her legacy inspired generations of explorers, scholars, and dreamers to seek out the unknown corners of the world. The kingdom, now an empire of knowledge and peace, attracted visitors from far-off lands who wished to learn from the wisdom Elara had uncovered. Among these visitors was a young orphan named Kale, who had grown up hearing the stories of Queen Elara's daring quests. He was drawn to the kingdom by the tales of her bravery and the promise of knowledge that could change lives. Kale had always been curious and inventive, but in his own village, there were few opportunities to nurture his gifts. So he set off on a journey to the heart of Elara's empire, hoping to find his purpose. When Kale arrived, he marveled at the city that had risen around the castle towers of glass and stone, gardens that bloomed all year round, and people from all over the world sharing ideas in a harmonious blend of cultures. Kale felt a spark of hope. This was the place where he could make a difference. He sought an audience with the aging queen, though he doubted a simple orphan could ever meet her. But Queen Elara, ever the listener of her people, had heard of Kale's arrival. His curiosity reminded her of her younger self, and she welcomed him into her court. When they met, Kale presented an idea he had been working on, a device that could harness the energy of the sun, inspired by the technologies Elara's scholars had uncovered in the ancient civilization's library. Impressed by Kale's ingenuity, Elara encouraged him to develop his invention with the help of the kingdom's finest minds. Over time, Kale's solar-powered device transformed the way the kingdom operated. It provided clean, renewable energy to every home and allowed the people to work in harmony with nature, just as the ancient texts had envisioned. As Kale's invention spread throughout the world, the kingdom grew even more prosperous, and Kale became a celebrated figure. But his greatest reward was the mentorship of Queen Elara, who took him under her wing, teaching him not only about innovation, but also about the values of compassion, wisdom, and humility. One day, as Alara sat with Kale in the royal gardens, she spoke of the future. "You remind me so much of myself when I first set out into the world," she said, her eyes shining with the wisdom of years. "But the most important thing I learned on my journeys wasn't the wonders I saw or the knowledge I gained. It was that our greatest adventure is always the one we undertake with others. The real legacy we leave behind isn't in the things we create, but in the lives we touch." As the years went by, Queen Elara gradually stepped back from her duties, passing the mantle of leadership to those she trusted. The kingdom continued to flourish under the guidance of the next generation of leaders, including Kale, who became a symbol of the future Elara had worked so hard to build. Queen Elara's final years were spent in peace, traveling once again to distant lands, not in search of adventure, but to share the knowledge and wisdom she had gathered throughout her life. She became a beloved figure across the world, known not just as a queen, but as a mentor, a teacher, and a true leader of light. When the day finally came for her to leave this world, the kingdom mourned the loss of their beloved queen, but they also celebrated her life, for she had left them with a gift greater than any treasure. She had shown them how to seek knowledge, how to lead with kindness, and how to live in harmony with the world around them. Her story became immortal, etched into the history of the land, told around hearths and in classrooms, sung in ballads and written in books. And every year, on the anniversary of her passing, the people of the kingdom would gather to honor the woman who had shaped the world, a queen who had never stopped dreaming, learning, and sharing her light. Kale, now an old man himself, would often sit beneath the ancient tree in the royal gardens, where he and Elara had spent many afternoons. He would gaze at the sun-powered city, remembering the queen who had believed in him when no one else had, and smile, knowing that her legacy lived on in every beam of sunlight that powered their world. And so, Queen Elara's light never dimmed, for it was carried forward in the hearts of her people, guiding them into a future full of hope, wisdom, and endless discovery. Years passed, and Kale's inventions continued to shape the world, bringing light to distant lands and improving the lives of countless people. As he grew older, his thoughts often returned to Queen Elara's words: "The greatest legacy was in the lives one touched, not in the things one created." With this in mind, Kale became more than just an inventor. He became a mentor, passing on his knowledge to a new generation of dreamers, just as Elara had done for him. Among his many students, one stood out: a young woman named Leora. She was brilliant, filled with a curiosity that reminded Kale of both himself and Queen Elara. Leora had come to the kingdom as a child, having heard stories of Elara's discoveries, and she was determined to continue the queen's mission of unearthing ancient knowledge and using it to make the world a better place. Leora often visited Kale in the royal gardens, where they discussed everything from science to philosophy, to the stories of Elara's adventures. One day, Kale revealed something that had been kept secret for many years. There was one last mystery Elara had left unsolved. During her later travels, Elara had discovered a hidden map deep within the ancient civilization's library. The map pointed to a distant land, far beyond the known world, where it was said the source of all life and knowledge originated. Elara had been too old to undertake the journey herself, but she had left the map in Kale's care, trusting that one day someone worthy would follow it. Now, Kale believed that Leora was that person. With Kale's encouragement, Leora prepared for the journey of a lifetime. She gathered a team of explorers and scholars, All inspired by the legacy of Queen Elara, they set off across the seas, following the ancient map through uncharted waters and into lands no one had seen for centuries. After many months of travel, Leora and her team arrived at the place the map had led them, a vast, untouched island covered in dense forests and towering mountains. At its center was an enormous temple, far grander than anything they had ever seen. The temple was surrounded by symbols and carvings, much like those found in the ancient civilization's ruins. But these were older, more intricate, and held deeper meaning. As they explored the temple, they uncovered something astonishing. In its heart was a chamber filled with glowing crystals, each one pulsing with energy. The inscriptions on the walls revealed that these crystals held the very essence of life, the source from which all creation had sprung. This was the heart of the lost civilization's knowledge, the secret to life itself. But as Leora studied the crystals, she realized that they were not merely a source of power. They were connected to everything: nature, people, the world itself. The ancient civilization had understood that true power lay not in controlling the world, but in understanding the delicate balance between all living things. They had used the crystals to heal, to grow, and to create in harmony with nature. Leora knew that this knowledge could change the world once again, just as Elara's discoveries had done. But she also understood the responsibility that came with it. The crystals were not a tool to be exploited. They were a reminder of the interconnectedness of all life, a lesson that had been forgotten by so many. With this newfound wisdom, Leora and her team returned to the kingdom, bringing the knowledge of the crystals and the balance they represented. Kael, now very old, was overjoyed to see that Leora had completed the journey Elara had always dreamed of. Together, they worked to share the lessons of the crystals with the world, teaching people to live in harmony with the earth and each other. Under Leora's guidance, the kingdom entered a new era of enlightenment. Cities grew, but in balance with nature, and technology advanced without harming the environment. People from all over the world came to learn the ways of the crystals, and soon the knowledge spread far and wide, uniting the world in a common understanding of peace and harmony. Leora became a leader in her own right, known as the Seeker of Balance, and her name, like Elara's, became legend. The crystals continued to glow in the heart of the temple, a reminder that true wisdom comes not from seeking power, but from understanding the world and our place within it. And so, the legacy of Queen Elara lived on, passed down through generations, not just in the knowledge she uncovered, but in the hearts of those who followed her path. The world was forever changed by her courage, her wisdom, and her endless pursuit of truth and light. As the world flourished under the wisdom of the crystals, peace and prosperity reigned for many generations. Leora, the Seeker of Balance, ensured that the harmony between nature, technology, and humanity was maintained. The ancient knowledge continued to inspire new generations of thinkers, healers, and creators, each one building on the legacy of Queen Elara and the balance discovered by Leora. But as always, the passing of time brought new challenges, far beyond the borders of Elara's kingdom. In distant lands untouched by the light of the crystals, an ambitious ruler named Malik rose to power. Malik was brilliant, but driven by a desire for domination rather than balance. He had heard of the ancient crystals and believed that their power could be used to conquer and control, bending the world to his will. His army, vast and well-trained, began expanding into neighboring lands, and soon whispers of his conquests reached the kingdom of Elara. Leora, now a wise leader, knew that Malik's ambition threatened everything they had worked to build. She called upon the scholars, warriors, and healers of the kingdom to prepare, not for war, but for protection, of the balance they had nurtured for so long. But Leora also knew that Malek could not be defeated through force alone. She believed that only by helping him understand the true nature of the crystals, the harmony they represented, could they prevent conflict. She decided to undertake one final journey, a diplomatic mission to meet Malek face to face, with a small group of trusted companions, including the bravest warriors and wisest scholars. Leora set out for Malek's empire. It was a dangerous journey, for Malek's forces were already marching toward the borders of the kingdom, ready to invade. But Leora was determined. She carried with her a single crystal from the ancient temple, a glowing symbol of the balance she sought to protect. When Leora arrived at Malek's capital, she was met with suspicion. Malek, hearing of her approach, had expected a challenge, but instead found a woman of calm, unwavering strength. Intrigued, he agreed to meet her in his grand palace. Leora stood before Malek, her presence commanding despite the tension in the air. She spoke not of war or power, but of the ancient civilization that had created the crystals, of the balance between all things, and of the responsibility that came with such knowledge. She explained that the crystals' true strength was in their ability to connect and heal, not to dominate. Malek, however, was not easily swayed. He had spent his life believing that strength came from control, that power was something to be seized and wielded. He scoffed at the idea that harmony could achieve more than force. But Leora, patient and wise, did not give up. She asked Malek to hold the crystal she had brought, to feel its warmth and light. Hesitantly, Malek took the crystal in his hand. As he did, something unexpected happened. The crystal began to glow brighter, and for the first time, Malek felt the connection it represented. In that moment, he saw glimpses of the ancient civilization, the world they had built, and the consequences of their downfall when they had forgotten the balance. The experience shook him. Malek saw that the very power he sought could also be his undoing, just as it had been for those before him. He realized that the control he craved would only bring destruction, not the legacy of greatness he had imagined. Though pride still tugged at him, Malek could not ignore the truth of what Leora had shown him. He understood now that the crystal's power was not something to be possessed, but something to be shared, to guide humanity toward a better future. In the days that followed, Malek called off his invasion. He invited Leora and her companions to stay in his capital, where they taught him and his people the ways of the crystals. Slowly, Malek began to change. His ambition turned toward creating a legacy of wisdom, one that would last for generations. He began to implement practices of balance and harmony, learning to rule not with an iron fist, but with an open mind. Leora's mission had succeeded not through force, but through understanding. She returned to her kingdom as a hero once again, not for conquering an enemy, but for turning one into an ally. The borders between the kingdoms remained open, and a new era of cooperation and peace began to spread across the lands. In time, Malek became known not as a conqueror, but as a ruler who had found balance. His empire thrived, not through domination, but through the sharing of knowledge, trade, and the ancient wisdom of the crystals. As for Leora, she continued to lead with grace and wisdom until her final days. Her legacy, like Queen Alara's before her, was one of peace, harmony, and endless pursuit of understanding. And just as the crystals continued to glow in the heart of the ancient temple, the lessons of balance, compassion, and unity continued to shine in the hearts of all those who followed. The kingdom now a global beacon of peace, stood as a testament to the power of knowledge, kindness, and the courage to seek a better way. The world, once divided, became a tapestry of connected lives, all woven together by the light of the crystals and the wisdom of those who dared to dream.